Hey, what's up, everybody? Another video here today. I know I made one a few days ago, but this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go over a few charts that I really like, and I just want to put it out there. Hopefully, if they do work out, right, maybe help somebody. All right, so first one here is coal, COAL. All right, Global Coal Index ETF. It's a pretty new chart, right? It came out in 2024. And higher time frame, if I just go to the weekly really quick, you can see it a bit better. There is what looks like to me an inverse head and shoulders, potentially, right? And a weekly uptrend. The blue line is the 21 EMA. Okay. Um, so as of right now, there is a weekly higher low set from the February 23rd, right? 1385 is the, oh no, sorry, that is not the low. It was 2432. 1385 is on here. I'll get into that later. And on the weekly Marcus Cipher B oscillator, there is a green dot printing right now. So potentially a pretty good bullish trigger there. And money flow seems to be increasing still as well. It's pointed up in green. And VWAP's trying to come over positive too. And that Stoke is ever so slightly trying to curve on the weekly. All right. It's a weekly chart, so it takes time to play out if it is going to. All right. Going to go down to the daily. And daily momentum did cross over the zero line, so it is positive now. And the stochastic crossed back over. Okay. And there's potentially here, a little flag, type of bull flag. I know it's a little bit messy. The volume on this ETF isn't a lot. So take it with a grain of salt. Um, but nonetheless, that does look like, to me, a bull flag, right? You got a pretty steep rise up and, kind of flagged out. And now it seems like it's trying to start another uptrend again. All right, so that's the day, that's market cipher of the weekly and the daily, and I believe that's the 2 day. The 2 day has printed a bull trigger March 3rd, and stochastics coming up, and 2 day market cipher B momentum waves in blue are ever so slightly positive. Okay, ever so slightly. They just got over positive, and the 3 day confirmed a bull trigger March 5th, and there's another day in 18 hours to confirm, well, not to confirm, but until this current 3 day candle closes. Right. Right. And put Bunker Cipher away. Now, these blue zones, right? It's this projection tool right here, date and price range. Right. Let me exit out of that. And I have four previous entries of this. Okay. So from a low to a high, low to a high, low to a high, low to a high. Each one of these have been around 30%, right? 29%, 30, 33, 34. Okay. And the average of the four is 31.75. I got it at 31.72 right here. I couldn't get it at 75. But that does bring it around 32 bucks. Okay. And the average bars, so the time is 35 bars out of the four, the average. That brings us to April, or brings this to April 20th, right? And the interesting thing is the bull flag measured move is 30.74, which is in black here, right? The inverse head and shoulder move is a lot higher. If it does play out, it will take a lot more time. Inverse head and shoulder target here is 38.61 in black. Okay. And now these other targets I have here are Fibonacci targets and degree targets. So in red is a 1618 target around right here that, measured the 180 degree level and this projection level, right? So there's a cluster. There's a three-level cluster right there. You could even add the bull flag target to buck off, roughly. But 30 to 32 bucks is roughly a cluster area. So there's some confluence there, right? If this were to uptrend, if it is going to play out, that's a crucial area. Okay. 30 to 32 bucks. Or 30.75 to roughly $32 on this. And now how I get the degree targets, which is in green, a 180 degree level at 31.85, a 225 degree level at 36.35, 270 degree all the way up here. Don't need to worry about that right now. I go off of this low here at 1385, or sorry, right there, 1385, and I just add degrees. So you can add for this specific stock, it's 13.85. So you would add like the 45 degree would be $4.50, and then $9 for the 90 degree, and so on. So for the 180, I did $18 added onto the 13.85. For the 225, I did 22.5 added onto 13.85. Obviously, there were 270, I added 27. And that's just how I get the degree levels. You can do that to the upside or downside. You can do that on anything. It does actually work out pretty well if you do try it yourself when you go and you know do some analysis, right? So that's cool on the trading view chart. Now I'm going to come to the cycle analyzer, and here we have a 63-day cycle. That's pretty decent, right? Yeah, it's right here, 1.87 strength and 0.63 on stability. All right, and we see here the cycle momentum is green. Okay, it is a bit elevated, so it could come down some, but it is green. It's positive, and the cycle RSI has bounced. So as of right now, off the bottom blue, right? And there's a trough in time period around March 17th. Okay, now this is a 63-day cycle, so you could take roughly 10% of this, and it's just about a window. So you can go to like March 10th to March 23rd, 24th, roughly, as a 10% window of a bottom window, right? So potentially coal did trough before this, right? Maybe like 15% for that 63-day cycle, right? Which was around February 27th is when it troughed here. Now a peak, really interesting, April 30th, right? Go back really here, and April 20th is a projected date here, right? It could extend. If it does play out, it could extend. It could be less. Don't know, but it is interesting that there is time confluence with this projection here, right? And then we also have price confluence just on the trading chart. So I would say I would be wrong with a break under this February 27th low on coal, right? But if that doesn't happen, I'd still be in my trade. So just, this is one of my favorite picks. I am in it. Not financial advice, right? No. All right. Another one here I'm keeping my eye on. I'm not in this, but I'm keeping my eye on it. It is interesting. It's JP Morgan. So let me go to Psychoanalyzer really quick. Just get this pulled up. JP Morgan. Okay, leave that there. Let's go to the trading view chart. So I have a volume profile here, and you can see it so far on March 9th, it found a low just at this level here in our high volume profile, which does coincide with this February 19th, 2025 high, and this low on July 8th of 2025, right? So that's a pretty significant level we see there. If that's lost, daily close under, or two daily closes under, I think it's definitely going to the 0.5. But there's a volume cluster here, roughly something like this, just under the 0.5. So I'm gonna leave that there. But if this low is held, and maybe it is just a bit choppy for the next couple weeks, March 30th, right around there, is a troughing period when I go to the psychoanalyzer here in a second. So that's why I have this date here. It's something I'm keeping my eye on. I want to see how price action forms over the next couple of weeks here on JP Morgan. Yeah, and the daily it is going to print a big green dot here, eventually, maybe in the next day or two. So it could be a good buy now. I don't know though. I'd rather wait and see how it unfolds. Because let's say it does trough now, right? March 9th was the bottom. Maybe, end of this month, it could just be a higher low. And, that's just, you're waiting for maybe some extra confirmation there or something like that. Better risk reward. No. Just rather wait and see how this plays out. Because I've seen many times where, um, in the stock market specifically, where stocks can form a big green dot on the daily, which is typically rare for a pretty big stock like JP Morgan. I've seen it before on Google, just higher market cap stocks, where they can print, two or three of these big green dots. And, it's better if you had waited, right? Watch the price action form and maybe have some cycle analysis to help you out there. So keep my eye on this. It's definitely really interesting. So just want to put this out there. JP Morgan. Maybe there's a rotation coming back to the financial sector, uh, you know, slowly. Could take a little bit of time, right? And if I go to the psychoanalyzer now, so this is what I'm talking about, the end of this month, March 27th, March 30th, roughly, there could be a trough, right? And, you know, the more, the higher upside target is in June. And there's actually a lot of confluence with June. I know Bitcoin has a cycle, a projected high for a cycle in June. And there's some other assets that have June time period confluence with this too, which is really interesting. So, but yes, March 11th here could be a lower high potentially, and the end of this month could be a low. So this is why I'm just waiting and wanting to watch price action, right? And just being clear here, if JP Morgan by the end of this month is still holding above this low, I'd see that as really bullish. I would really like that. Okay. And I will go into ETN. Why not? All right. So ETN here on the daily is printing a dot, right? Double bottom on the stochastic and potentially bouncing from, deeper fib support here, 2382 and 236, right? And let me just delete this, clean it up. And on the daily, I'll put a market cipher away now. Maybe an inverse head and shoulder. Right there, something like this, right? And then here on like just a trading view cycle here, um, we're approaching, or ETN's approaching, the apex of this cycle. And it typically it's found, higher prices in this apex. So this apex is from March 16th through May 4th. The middle, the apex is April 9th. And so it's really interesting, this potential setup here forming with an inverse head and shoulders, what could be an inverse head and shoulders, and a bounce from a fib level, um, and some oversold on the daily. Could be really interesting heading into April and May. And if I go to the cycle analyzer, just a really one cycle, very simple here on ETN. It did not pop up, but here we go, 170. Put on the cycle tools. All right, so this cycle troughs, the 170-day cycle, well, not troughs, peaks, sorry, April 22nd, end of April, right? And that does come in between, around this apex, a little bit after the apex, between that April 9th date and May 4th date. Okay, so time confluence there. We see here on ETN's cycle analyzer, the cycle momentum is pretty deeply oversold. So it is an aggressive type trade because it's still in a daily downtrend until proven otherwise. Okay. So this is an aggressive trade, right? You're a stop would be under this March 9th low, right? So it's an aggressive trade, but you know, it comes with a bit higher reward. Yeah. So I just like it. I like the pattern formation with the fib support and the time cycle, uh, confluence on this. It's interesting setup potential, right? And another one here, VKTX Viking Therapeutics. So really simple here on the daily. There was a bull flag. It did break out, and potentially an inverse head and shoulders as well. Okay, so two really bullish formations, and Marcus Cipher B on the daily time frame confirmed a green dot, stochastic cross, VWAP cross, momentum's positive, and money flow is in red, but it is coming up. Okay. Um, what's really interesting here is there's kind of an inverse head and shoulders too on the money flow, right? It matches up with the price action. So let me put Market Cipher away. It's a really clean setup. If this were to continue breaking out above, 35, 36 roughly, uh, my targets are, 42, $46, somewhere around this trend line of resistance, which if you zoom out, this is a bigger, very bigger time frame pennant that could break out massively to the upside. Um, it could break out massively to the upside. It could just come up here and go sideways. I don't know, but that potential is there. Okay. Um, yeah, there's not really much else to say. It's just take it for what it is. And just going really quick, weekly momentum is coming up. It's not even positive yet on Market Cipher, and Stochastic is still on its way up. I go to the monthly. Monthly is actually printing a green dot in the negative zone, right? So it's pretty close to flipping positive. So that is a really nice trigger there on Market Cipher B. When the momentum waves are print a trigger like this, a green dot, and it's really close to going over the zero line. So momentum waves flipping bullish, right? Going positive. It's really nice. And stochastic is on its way up still on the monthly time frame. And then you go all the way down to the daily time frame, and you can see if these higher time frames are going to play out, it's starting from the daily potentially. So I do really like VKTX. I'm personally in this one already. Um, I like VKTX here, just technically wise. Now I'm going to go on the cycle analyzer and let's see what we got here. Why did this not save? Just a second. I don't know why it does it. 251 are the cycles I had on this. So let's just update this today. Okay. Start it from there. 51 day and a 200-day cycle I had. So here we go. We can even see here the inverse head and shoulders potentially here. And there's a 50-day cycle peak around the March 19th, March 20th. So, roughly a little bit over a week from now, which could coincide with that daily time frame bull flag and inverse head and shoulder move, right? If it is going to play out like that, and then maybe it pulls back some, thinking ahead, whatever. And then there's another trough, April 16th. Now this could, if this is bullish, right, this could just be a higher low. Maybe it's another tap of that trend line. Don't know how it's going to play out, but this cycle pretty much is in a trough between February 17th, April 16th, April 17th, and has a peaking in August and June. Okay, so those are two time periods of if VKTX is rising into, we're going to want to look at the technicals and see what's going on for a longer swing type of play, right? So that's a VKTX, really interesting there. Another one here, VIX is looking nice. I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, right? So I went over this in my video the other day, I'm pretty sure. And first of all, on the daily time frame, the Market Cipher B momentum waves, it is it did confirm a red dot. So this will pop up. It did clip. It did red dot today, um, and it did it in a high level at 70. Right. We can see here, it VIX rejected pretty harshly off 35, and when VIX gets high levels like this, it is historically not a bad time to buy risk assets, right? So if that was the high, it's potentially showing here on Market Cipher, right? Rejecting off high momentum wave levels. Looking back, it's done this plenty of times in high levels like this. We have the levels on price levels on the chart and also the time. Okay, I'm going to put Market Cipher away. So I went over this between the four cycle fractals here, right? March 5th through the 12th is a topping zone potentially for the VIX. And this doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really turn bullish until April 23rd, okay, 2026. Okay, because we see here in the gold cycle, this peaks on the 5th and doesn't turn until the 23rd. In red, this is basically just sideways until the 23rd. And then when it gets into May, it turns up. Okay, so there's some confluence with that gold cycle. In blue, downtrends. It's more of a downtrend. Yes, there's a bit of an uptick into May, right, for a little bit. Right, the green one is more confluent with the others. No, peak around March 12th and goes lower into April 23rd. So it lines up with the red and the yellow, or red and the gold, and then it starts to turn up from there. And and then you notice here that there is, I'll do it right here. So there is a period in time here where potentially VIX is going to find some highs again, and it could be another good time to buy stocks. So that's going to be potentially between June 4th and June 11th. Okay. So what this is saying right now, just talking on my butt, right? Because I don't know, but just putting it out there. Why not? It's fun. VIX finds a high now and goes, it chills out until April 23rd. And April 23rd is potentially where you would want to, assess your risk on risk assets, right? Or hedge, whatever. And the VIX could be rising into June, right? And June 4th through June 11th is potentially a period in time where there's going to be opportunity to buy risk assets, S&P, whatever. Okay, so yeah, that's the VIX. Very interesting chart. Very interesting. And I'm going to look at the dollar now. So the monthly look on the DXY looks really bullish. It kind of reminds me of Chevron with that multi-year bull flag, right? And just to go to the chart really quick, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Everybody did not like energy, didn't even talk about it for a long time until now, right? But you kind of see here, just, it's a big old multi-year bull flag. Kind of reminds me of the dollar right now. Sentiment's extremely bearish on the dollar. People think it's going to, people think it's going to go a lot lower. But then I look at this chart and it kind of looks like a bull flag on the monthly. And on the monthly time frame, it's also printing a green dot, and stochastics trying to cross over with the VWAP in the yellow going positive. The money flow's still green. So, and it's coming off of this bottom of the bull flag. Right, now let's go to the lower time frame. Go to the 2 week. 2 week has a bullish. You can't make this up. 2 week has a bullish divergence, right? Lower lows in the price. 3 drives actually looks like. Yeah, you would say 3 drives, right? 3 lower lows. In Market Cipher, green dot here. another green dot here. Swing that. That is a bullish divergence. Coming off the bottom of the bull flag, stochastics trying to cross, and yeah, it's essentially almost the same as the monthly time frame. Um, it, I'm not bearish the dollar. Yeah, I'm not bearish the dollar. And then I go into UUP, which is the bullish index fund for the USD. And I am looking to position myself in this soon. If it does hit my levels, I would like to find some longer term plays in this. Um, it's essentially going to follow the DXY. Okay, so if I go down to I'm on the daily now. It did print a red dot, right? Pretty high one. And stochastics coming down right now, pointed down at least. So I put on the daily super trend. Would like to see it hold above there. If it doesn't, that's fine. Um, it's not the end of the world. There is some support levels still, but I'm going to leave that there. Golden pocket here, 20. What is that? 27, 21, 27, 17. It's within this gap. A 0.5 level here from the low to this high. Okay, so I'm watching these support levels on the UUP to try and position myself for the higher time frame move on the DXY. So just watching this, but I'm putting that out there. The dollar looks it looks extremely bullish, higher time frame, um, going against the grain there. I'll leave this off with I'll go into copper after this, but Bitcoin still pretty choppy. It's holding above this gray line here, so it could be bullish. And on IBIT, it's getting closer to potentially a troughing date, right? Because we on price we can see here it's just basically basing. It's going sideways, just choppy. It's basing. It's not doing anything. Sentiment gets all over the price, and price moves up and down in this range. Signs of a base, right? And it's basing going into a troughing period potentially. So it does look like there is some long opportunity on Bitcoin. And if I go to the cycle analyzer really quick, where is BTC at? Bitcoin, there you are, 278.84.19. Hopefully it saves. Okay, good, cool. Let me just update it. All right. Is that what I did? Pretty sure it was like 270. All right. Well, whatever. Again, it's Bitcoin here is potentially also a chopping period on a cycle analyzer. So I do notice that the cycle momentum is very close to going red. If this is bullish, if this does go red, it could just provide opportunity going into these troughing dates here. March 13th, which is a Friday, so typically you would want to wait till Monday for the stock market, right? 10% out from the two cycles here is March 24th and then April 1st. So Bitcoin's in a very interesting time period, which could be a bullish opportunity for a longer swing. This swing could potentially go into the end of June. Yeah, which is the apex of this. Interesting. Do I have June? May 18th? August. So June is like right around here. Nothing much there. All right, copper really quick. This will be my last one. So I know in my previous video I said there's potentially of a inverse, or not inverse, a head and shoulders like a bearish pattern, right? But here we are. A couple of days later, the chart changes. So, move like water. Daily time frame, got a dot, stochastic crossed. Overall, we're in a range, so take it with a grain of salt. It could just be choppy, right? These prices more important than the oscillator. Okay, so I'll go down to the 4 hour, and it did break this downtrend. Okay, so I'm gonna pull a fib from this high. right, to this low. And as long as it holds above the 50% here at 5.8, which is also the high volume node of this choppy place, right, that it's in, it by all means it could hit the uppers of this range, 6.11, and potentially even try and go for a breakout, right? So interesting here on copper. And also combining this with the cycle analyzer tool, it is potentially an upcycle for a bit, right? Let this load. Come on. Why is it taking so long? Oh boy. Here we go. Awesome. Okay. So I have a 3 cycle composite here, 263, 67, and a 20. So why is this not updated? I literally just did this like 30 minutes ago. Okay. All right. There we go. So zooming in a little bit, we can see here that there is a bit of a trough where copper is at now, right? And it's up into March 30th and April 21st, somewhere around here. And on the cycle momentum, it is still red, but curving up very nicely. If there's continuation the next day or two, this would go green. So, an aggressive type of trade here, but there's there is bullish signs here. So I do like. I'm in on a small copper long as well. I, that I entered not too long ago, based off of this, but not financial advice, right? Okay, just remember that. Really quick, S&P. I talked about this level here on my video the other day. This red zone. It broke above, and it as of right now, it's tested it, right, and it's currently holding above. So this could be bullish, right? Um, the VIX is coming down. Potentially, S&P is bullish, and I had the 11th as a date for a trough. Um, maybe it could still be, right. I do see potential here of an inverse head and shoulders, right? Left shoulder right there, the head. Stay at the 11's a trough, right? Maybe. I'm going to leave that there. Um, but it is consolidating above that red zone, which I thought would have been bearish. I did close that short. I did enter a short there, but closed it. Price is consolidating above, so I don't like that. Yeah, flow like water, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. See you in the next one. Peace.